So, Kevin, thanks very much for coming on. How are you managing these days without football, I suppose?
Well, struggling by. Definitely, I think even the bit of action on the Sunday game last night kind of
Mm.
would have you missing it a good bit. But look, there's not really a whole lot that can be done. You're better off just accepting it for what it is and trying to make the best of the time that you have now, whatever way that is, whether that's kind of focusing on work or some way of adjusting your work or taking the time to work on some weaknesses or things with your game or focus on different aspects of your fitness and your performance. And that's pretty much what we've been trying to do over the last few weeks to try and keep ourselves busy and keep ourselves kind of mentally switched on. But no, it's definitely tough times, all right.
I suppose John Horan says October probably would be the earliest the inter-county action would resume. Would you sort of welcome that? That I suppose you can know that there will be no action for the next until then, anyways, and you can sort of relax the training that you might have been doing before that.
Yeah, it would be unreal if it did go ahead in October. It's really great to have something to look forward to. But then, obviously, he kind of John Horn outlined yesterday as well about how if social distancing is still a recommended protocol, which it mostly you'd imagine it still will be by October. It's hard to see where or Gaelic games lie in terms of contact sport and stuff like that. But yeah, if I'm kind of working off the basis that there will be something going ahead in October, and I'm trying to keep that as a bit of a focus, and then obviously as well, club. I'd say the priority will be for club to go ahead before county as well. So that's a kind of a light at the end of the tunnel as well. That maybe towards the end of the summer we might have a bit of club football to be looking forward to. So yeah, probably relaxing a little bit in terms of training and fitness at the moment, but we'll probably get back into it a little bit more kind of intensely coming into June, kind of with the club season in mind more so than else.
Yeah, you kind of seem to rule out the behind closed doors nearly scenario, but would you play football behind closed doors if that was the only sort of option?
Oh yeah, it wouldn't bother me really that much at all. To be getting to play, I think at this stage you're so restless and missing it so
Yeah.
much. You'd take any type of football. Obviously, it would take away hugely from the atmosphere and stuff like that. But I'd still take that over nothing at all. Definitely, yeah.
So I suppose we'll start with you started as a professional soccer player, would I be right on that, in 2010 with Bohemians?
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
So was it always soccer or were you playing sort of both up until a certain age?
It was primarily soccer. I'd say growing up as a teenager and stuff like that, it would have been soccer. Would definitely have been the number one focus. And I used to live in Waterford as well in Tramore, and hurling would have been really big on the kind of priority list as well. But I definitely kind of tried my hand at everything. I was playing loads and loads of sports, but with soccer and hurling would have been the kind of main priority ones. And then moving up to Kildare, there's not a whole lot of hurling in South Kildare especially,
Mm.
so that kind of took a back seat, and football came a lot more to the fore, I suppose, when I was about 16 or 17. But still, it was always kind of playing second fiddle to the soccer. The aim, obviously, was growing up was to try and be a professional soccer player. I didn't really consider um, inter-county GAA as a kind of career, I suppose. And yeah, I was lucky enough then after playing a bit of soccer in the DDSL with Belvedere, then got a chance to go to Bohemians. And I suppose even the first 2 or 3 years with Bows, I was still dabbling a bit in the football and playing Kildare minor and under 21s and trying to talk with the club whenever I could. But if there was a clash at all, it was always the soccer. And then got a big break then in 2012 and got the opportunity to go across to Charlton after a few trials and with different clubs and stuff. So that was a deadly experience.
Yeah, I suppose was it an easy decision? I suppose probably every soccer player's dream in Ireland is to move to England eventually. So was it easier? Would you find it hard leaving Ireland, I suppose, at a relatively young age?
It wasn't easy for kind of the reasons that I was I was really enjoying my life in Ireland at the time. Had been in college in DCU for 2 years, so I kind of had the college thing going on, which was enjoyable. I was had played the last couple of years Kildare 21s and minor, and I was kind of at the stage. McGeaney was my Kildare manager at the time, and he was, asking me to go and train with the senior team, and I was kind of only realising what a kind of huge honour and thing that was to be asked to go and train with your county team at senior level, and how big a thing that was in Kildare, and the offer for Charlton and the offer for Kildare kind of arrived at similar times, and it definitely wasn't an easy decision. I didn't kind of rush in and straight away say, oh, I'll take the professional soccer route. It took me a good bit of time to decide that I wanted to go the way soccer was going, because I was really enjoying Gaelic football at the time. But I kind of came to the conclusion that I'd severely regret not at least trying professional soccer and seeing how it goes, and if it was for me or whatever. So I don't regret going over in any way. It was a brilliant kind of experience and brilliant life learning over there, but it definitely wasn't an easy decision.
Do you feel you sort of ever settled over there? I mean, I think you had a few loan spells and then you arrived at Newport. Was homesickness a part at any stage?
A little bit early on, was not hugely. In London, when I was with Charlton in London, a little bit more so, but never to that huge of an extent. It was more so disappointing that I actually would have had a good first year with Charlton. I went over knowing that I was going to be going over to the under-21 team and the reserve team. I knew I wasn't going over as a first team player, and had what I would have thought was a very good start with the reserves and under-21s. But then the following year we had a kind of a change of management, and just kind of very quickly realised it wasn't in the plans with the new management at Charlton. And then was when I started looking for loan spells, and had a couple of injuries during that season, which kind of cut the loan spells short. And then so that was about 2 years into it, and that's when you kind of start feeling a little bit like, geez, maybe it's not for me, but not really for homesickness reasons, just for a combination of luck and perhaps not being quite up to the level of championship football in England. But got a bit of a kind of new lease of life at Newport County down in League Two when I went on loan there. Did well with them, and they offered me a contract for the next 3 years then after that. And even that summer, another kind of decision had to be made. When I was home and my contract at Charlton was up, and Newport had offered me a deal with them, but I was also in contact with Jason Ryan at Kildare, and had again that kind of decision to make of whether should I give League Two a go, or should I just cut my losses and come back home and just throw my lot in with Kildare. But again, in my own head, I knew I hadn't really had a full chance at first team football yet in England, so I kind of said again, don't want to regret that. So I said I'd give it at least another year of first team football at Newport, and I loved it actually when I went back. I loved it socially, and I loved the kind of camaraderie I had within that group at Newport County. But I think towards the end of the year, I was starting to realise that maybe I was only a very average soccer player, and that maybe League Two, lower end League One was probably my level, and as much as you can make a good living out of that, in terms of my own goals and ambitions, it was I wanted to be able to do more, but the ability maybe wasn't there, whereas I did feel like with Gaelic football that I had a little bit more to offer, and that I could influence games a bit more, and it wasn't as much of a struggle just to play averagely, which was the case I found with soccer at that level. So after another season at Newport, kind of halfway through my next season, made the call to come home and throw the lot in with Kildare.
Yeah, I suppose, did you find it hard to sort of come back? I know you have your own business now. I mean, when did that sort of start up? Because you were playing sort of soccer, you had something to focus on, and then you come back to Ireland and then you have to start again, kind of.
Yeah, no, that was a tricky aspect to it as well. So I'd remained in contact as well with DCU throughout my time in England. Initially I was hoping to continue the degree in some capacity in England, but that wasn't an option as it happened. So I just kept making sure I filled out my deferral forms each year. So I kind of remained as a student, but I was just deferring years. But then when I did come home, it got to the stage where I was, if I deferred one more year, I wouldn't be able to continue the course from where I left off. I would have had to start again. So that was another kind of factor as well. So I came home and was able to go straight into third year of the course I was doing, athletic therapy and training in DCU. And then I saw that I wasn't looking for work, I suppose, because I was gone back into being a full-time student. A little bit of part-time work here and there, but I was mostly focused on getting the degree done. So I had 2 years in DCU, finished that, and then did a master's in Carlow in strength and conditioning, and kind of combined that with some a coaching role that I was doing with Kildare GA at the time. And then it was after I finished that master's, then that's when I set up the kind of injuries and performance clinic down after that.
So in terms of, suppose, Gaelic football training, even in the last decade, it's kind of like has professional aspects, even though it is still an amateur organisation. Would you kind of agree with that GA is kind of going not fully professional, but has the aspects of it?
Yeah, there's definitely. I think the resources seem to be growing constantly. The resources available to players and management, and the level of professionalism available in terms of backroom staff seems to be kind of constantly growing. So the sports science aspect, the physio aspect, nutrition, these things are constantly on a par with the professional level. The only thing that's really missing is just the time you can dedicate to the sport is a lot less than what would be expected at a professional level. So what I think seems to happen is that to make up for that lack of time that you can dedicate to it, the training sessions that you do tend to be extremely intense and high volume and stuff like that. But so I think we get our kind of elite fitness levels and stuff from that, but it would be much more probably beneficial to be able to stagger the training sessions a little bit more without as much intensity in one session, and kind of balance it out a bit better. But unfortunately, we have to work as well, and there's no way of doing that. So I think in terms of resources, it's definitely comparable to professional sport, but two evenings a week and one day at a weekend isn't probably comparable in terms of time dedicated to on-pitch sessions. I know you have your gym sessions outside of that, but that tends to be the standard commitment, is the 3 pitch sessions a week, as opposed to professional sport where they're probably doing closer to 6 or 7. So if teams had more time to dedicate to it, they probably would, but we're so limited by employment and college and stuff like that we can't fully match a professional setup.
In terms of Kildare, I suppose probably 2017 was your kind of breakthrough year, if you like. Played Dublin in the Leinster Final, and I know you lost, but you probably put a good performance up to Dublin compared to a lot of teams in Leinster. Would you go along the lines of that?
I suppose at the time, it was as a kind of a competitive a game as anyone in Leinster had given Dublin. Although, I remember just being so disappointed after it, because we had a lot of momentum going into that game after a good league campaign, and then really good wins against Laois and Meath. And even at half time, we just thought, this is our chance to get them now. Yeah. But I think we missed a goal chance in the first 5 minutes of the second half, and that seemed to knock the stuffing out of us. And there kind of superior decision-making ability and just the ability to bring better players off the bench all the time. It just kind of sold out in the end, and so it was it was good to be competitive with them. But going into the game, we had aspirations of being a lot more than just competitive, and so we were very disappointed afterwards. But definitely, kind of after a Midland year in 2016, it helped to bring our profile up and to kind of show that we were capable of at least being up competing with the kind of top 8 teams in the country anyway.
Yeah, I suppose then you played Armagh in the round 4 qualifier. How disappointed were you to sort of go out like that? Because I'm sure you would have been targeting the last 8 throughout the year.
Yeah, no, exactly, definitely. It was a real, we definitely underperformed. We struggled to bring any sort of an energy to that game, for whatever reason, but there was a big part of it was we were totally outplayed. I know it was a tight game. We only lost by 2 or whatever, but it just felt tactically like Armagh absolutely had our number that day, and we weren't, I suppose, developed enough as a team or mature enough as a team to adapt to it quickly on the pitch. We were kind of a little bit shell shocked at what was happening in that game, and it just showed that we weren't ready to make that next step into the top 8 teams. We were probably a little bit outside of it at that stage, but I'd say that stood to us the following year then, in that we had a better year the next year and made that breakthrough into the Super 8s.
Yeah, and then I suppose you got nominated for an All-Star that year and you got called into the international rules squad for Australia. So how did you find that?
That was amazing. That was one of the best experiences I've ever had. Now, I had never been to Australia previously, so that in itself was really exciting. That I was getting to go to Australia and see 3 different cities as well, which was really nice. So we got to go to Melbourne, Perth and Adelaide all in the one trip, which was really cool. But I just getting to train with some of the guys that were on that panel who were a huge amount of all-stars there. The top players in the game outside of the Dublin lads obviously weren't in a position to be on the panel, but the Michael Murphys and Conor McManus's and Paul Murphys, all these lads were kind of idols, I suppose, lads that you were so in awe of watching them play when I was in England. It was unreal to get an opportunity to train with these lads, and the matches themselves as well, which it kind of started a really big interest in AFL for me after that. I've been following it very closely since then, and only realising in hindsight the quality of the opposition that we were playing against. I think that was one of the first years that there was a requirement that the Australian team had to be comprised of all stars that year, so the equivalent to our all stars. So it genuinely was the best of the best of Australia. So that was really cool, and it's been great seeing in hindsight how good those players were that we were playing against. And that I know that probably the game favours us in the round ball makes such a huge difference, but when you look at the quality of the opposition as well, it was good. It was great that the games were so competitive and close, and probably hopefully revived the series a little bit, and that it brought a bit more interest back into it.
Yeah, did you find it even hard to sort of, I know you said the round ball, but even adapt sort of new rules and that?
Yeah, it's just a kind of panic of when you get the ball that you can be rugby tackled. It's just a totally different mindset. When you get the ball, you just don't want to be caught standing still at all, or else you're gone. And they're so used to that, and then the difference in, I suppose, physical strength in the tackle was huge. Once they grabbed onto you, there was no getting away from them. Whereas we were our tackling technique would have been very average, and we were trying to hold on to lads, and they just had that power to kind of blow out the tackles that maybe we aren't trained to have. So that was definitely the biggest advantage I'd say they had, but it probably doesn't excuse our biggest failing was our ball skills weren't up to scratch in those 2 games, and if they had been, we probably should be winning, and more often than not Ireland, I'd say, should be winning that series, just because the shape of the ball makes such a huge difference.
So I suppose on the 2018 then, am I right to say you were Division 1 that year and you got relegated?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So were you on a sort of a downer going into the championship, if you like?
Yeah. Oh, very depressed going into the championship. Like we had a lot of moral victories in that Division 1 early on. In that there was a lot of 1 and 2 point losses, but then it tailed off. Then towards the end, we were a little bit sapped of kind of energy and sapped of kind of belief, I suppose is the word, that we were in the right place. Like even early on, the matches against Dublin, Tyrone, Monaghan, Donegal, we felt like very much that we were in the right, like that we were up there and competing with them, and the matches could have gone either way. But then we had a bad game against Mayo, I think, in the middle of it, beaten by 4 or 5 points, and probably deserved to be bet by more. And that really took the life out of us, and we were kind of took a bit of a hammer. And then I think 5 or 6 points against Kerry and the same against Galway. But so going into the Carlow game in championship, we weren't in a great place. But it probably took, it took that loss to Carlow to really bring the best out of us, and it kind of showed a bit of fight or flight in us, that we were able to come back and kind of show a bit of mental strength and get a bit of momentum after that game to have a good season then after that.
Yeah, I was about to say that Carlow loss, if you were sort of at a low point, that probably would have went well lower than that again, I suppose. What was the mentality? I suppose you said there sort of fight and show sort of passion for the jersey and that, but was training sort of was it depressing nearly that week after the Carlow game?
It could have been, but I think the majority of the squad kind of realised that, like, we can either sulk about this and give up this season, or we can, take the attitude that the only way is up from here. It was really rock bottom. So we were just had some kind of candid meetings there and just said what needed to be said, and drew a line under it and said we can't really do any worse than this, so we might as well have a crack at it. We can only go up, and we have to kind of, we had no expectation from our fans anymore. We'd kind of let them down enough at that stage in the year, so we just said we'd do it for ourselves initially, for a bit of pride. And once we did that up in Derry, we played really well up there, and that just gave us that little bit of belief then, to scrape past Longford, and lo and behold, Newbridge or nowhere came along, and we were able to jump on the back of that bandwagon.
Yeah, I suppose, what was the mentality like? Because I remember sort of that Monday draw, Mayo, you get the home draw, and then sort of maybe 1 or 2 o'clock, the GA announced that's in Croke Park. And then watching the news that night, Cian O'Neill came on and said you weren't playing anywhere but Newbridge as well. What was sort of the talk like amongst the camp during all this?
It was fairly reserved. Once, like, the minute we saw that Cian had gone and said that we would only be playing in Newbridge, that just had set in our heads that, okay, that this game is either going ahead in Newbridge or it's not going ahead at all. And we were very much settled on that then. There was never any doubt in our minds that it was going to be played there, like not for any kind of righteous reason. Like, it just seemed like our manager said it's going to be there, so the fact is it's going to be there, so let's just prepare as best we can for that. And we just had a great week's training preparing for Mayo, and like we were probably even a little bit caught on the hop at the crowd that ended up showing up. We didn't, I know there was a lot of talk of it, but we seemed to be a bit sheltered from that. So we probably even got a little bit of an extra energy boost from the crowd that was there, and the atmosphere that they created. So it turned out to be an unbelievable day. But the week leading up to it, I'd say we were fairly sheltered from it. We were just kind of focusing as best we could on Mayo.
Yeah, was there ever a moment where you think Mayo might turn up in Croke Park and just sort of get the win, or was that just you were always thinking this is going to be a Newbridge on Saturday?
I think early on that seemed like a tiny possibility, but who was Rochford manager? Yeah, he was. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I think he didn't say strongly either way that they were going to go to Croke Park. He seemed happy enough. Like when the initial draw was Newbridge, so I think he just assumed it would be in Newbridge, and it was only a day after the initial draw that Croke Park tried to change it. So they didn't put up much resistance. Like it seemed like they were happy enough to come to Newbridge. And as it happens, the crowd was probably split 50-50 anyway between they travel so well, their support. So it probably didn't make a huge amount of difference to them, you know.
Yeah, I suppose even watching it, I think you probably used it to your advantage. She just seemed so fired up that she nearly had a point to prove that you've earned home advantage, and now you have to sort of put a big performance in.
Yeah, I think that was definitely the case. Right, we were a little bit, we'd let ourselves down a bit in the league in our home performances. We were hoping to make Connacht's Park a bit of a fortress, but weren't able to do that. So we were hoping to maybe create that bit of a cauldron for Mayo when they came here. And the crowd themselves did that. I think it was really good that we got off to a good start. That was really important. Like we went a couple of scores up early on, and that got the crowd behind us. And once that happened, adrenaline was going to get you through anything in that game. And we also knew we kind of, off the back of 2017 and the back of some good performances in the league in 2018, we did know that we were well capable of competing with these teams. And we had got a little bit of momentum from the two previous qualifier matches. So there was that shred of belief there as well that we're well capable of winning this match. And I think that belief was just exaggerated then by the atmosphere that was created that day.
Would you feel you haven't had sort of enough of them moments sort of in the last 3 or 4 years for the sort of the talent that you have in the squad?
Yeah, undoubtedly. I think there's always been plenty of potential in this generation of Kildare players. Probably from my own age and 4 or 5 years younger than me have had a lot of success underage and stuff like that. That we really, like you said, the potential has been there, but maybe just have never been, mature enough as individuals to come together as a team and do what had to be done. And ultimately, it's your results that reflect how good you are. And we've never made it past the last 8. So I do think off the back of 2018, that last year 2019 was a very disappointing year. Like we really should have built off 2018 rather than seeing it as a peak that we're now falling off. So I think last year was a year lost, a year wasted in many ways. But again, we're back to full strength nearly this year, and the squad isn't that different at all from 2018. It's more or less the same players, so we know it's in us. We just have to find a way to get it out of ourselves.
Yeah, in terms of the Super 8, I suppose that year, I think you lost the first game by a point or two to Monaghan. Were you flat sort of after that? Is it like the mentality of the Super 8s, if you lose the first game, you really have a big challenge on?
Yeah, we did see that game as, even if we could have got a point out of it, a draw out of it, we would have carried on the momentum that we had. But it just seemed very similar to the Armagh game the previous year, in that we were in Croke Park with a very small crowd relative to the size of the stadium, which doesn't lend itself to a good atmosphere, as we all know. So I suppose it was a bit of an anticlimax in comparison to the Mayo game, and even we played Fermanagh in Navan, which was packed to the rafters, and that was a brilliant atmosphere as well. But these are all silly excuses. You should be well able to motivate yourself for games like this, but we weren't able to. And and Monaghan are such a good side, and again, I suppose it showed that we were a good team, that we competed as well as we did without playing well, if you know what I mean. But it just was really annoying that we'd gone another day in Croke Park without playing anywhere near to the potential that we could. So I think if we could have got a point out of that game, then going into the Galway match, we would have been a lot more confident. As it happens, the Galway match was an absolute cracker as well.
Yeah.
But the sending off at the end kind of killed us. They really managed the game very well after that sending off.
Yeah, so will Monaghan be a team you kind of look at and think like they've been playing Division 1 the last 6-7 years consistently in the last eight? Do you think that's where Kildare should be at least every year?
Yeah, we always say that's where we should be, but we're not. Unfortunately, we're not.
Yeah.
And when you match up player to player with ourselves and those kind of Monaghans, Tyrones and stuff, and Mayo, like, you think, oh, geez, maybe we should be there, but we're not, and we still have to prove that we are capable of doing that, and we haven't done that yet. So I still think at the moment we're a top 12 team as opposed to a top 8 team, and we need to prove to ourselves that we can be a consistent top 8 team.
In terms of this year, you have a new manager, Jack O'Connor. I suppose, how's he been this year?
He's been really good. He got a really good kind of backroom team in with him, with the Ross Glavin in as a selector, who was the Moorfield manager. Moorfield have won, except for last year, they'd won the last 2 county championships in Kildare and won a Leinster championship, so he was a great addition. And then Brian Murphy and Tom Cribben are kind of stalwarts of Kildare football as well, so a really good backroom team there as well. And he's definitely brought a fresh approach in terms of style, and he's tried to although I would have said we were quite a positive kind of attacking team anyway, he's trying to improve our skill set to make us more confident kicking the ball, or more accomplished, I suppose. I think there was never an issue with confidence kicking the ball. We just kicked the ball away a little bit too much in previous years, but he's tried to kind of upskill us in that and make us better kickers of the ball. And obviously the experience he has and what he's done in the game, he kind of commands everyone's respect without ever having said anything. So that's been a huge positive as well. And he's a great speaker and a great motivator. And alongside the lads there, I think he's going to be really good in the role for there.
Yeah, I suppose the 5 games he did play in the league, he didn't get off to a great start, I think, and then I think he just bet Laois, which was a good win, and then of course all this came. Do you think that was maybe going to be the turning point for you?
We hoped it would be, definitely. We were underperforming against Clare and Armagh in particular, were games where we didn't play very well. It didn't feel like we were doing a whole lot wrong. We were still losing the games. It was only when you watched them back you realised how our intensity just was really poor. Like, we weren't making mad mistakes or anything like that, but we were just a bit lethargic in those 2 games. And we definitely improved in that Roscommon match in Conlitz. We played way better, but still came out the wrong side of it. It was a very good game, actually. Could have gone either way, but Roscommon were probably more deserving of it. They finished the game very well. But then, and then Laois, we kind of ramped up the intensity again and had a comfortable win against Laois. So it did feel like we were on the brink of kind of finding a bit of form, but so we were as well to write it off. I don't think that league will be finished now. It doesn't look like it will be at all. So we're as well to write it off and have a go again next year. We'll hopefully just focus on preparing for October championship, and that will hopefully be the next opportunity we have to show what kind of form we're in.
Yeah, I suppose nearly to wrap up, the Leinster Championship's kind of been flat, if you like. So I suppose it's probably yourselves and me, they're the 2 teams that everyone talks about trying to bridge the gap to Dublin. Do you see that being a possibility at all in the next 3-4 years?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think if we didn't see that as a possibility, there wouldn't be a huge point to playing. You'd have to have some ambition and some goals that you want to achieve. So I think it's definitely in us. Meath are probably a bit ahead of us based on last year. They did what we did in 2018, so they're carrying that bit of momentum in. But we definitely feel like it's in us. We just have to go out there and prove it to ourselves as well as to everyone else that we're capable of bridging that gap, and hopefully making Leinster a bit more of a competitive provincial championship if it's still there. Actually, in the next 3 or 4 years, we don't know what way it's going to go with the the change in the championship format. But yeah, we do believe that we're capable of doing it, but we have a good bit more work to do yet. So we'll be taking it kind of one step at a time.
Yeah, would you be in favour of kind of keeping the Leinster Championship, or would you, as a player, like sort of the National League format in the summer?
I probably personally, and for kind of more nostalgic and selfish reasons, I'd love to keep the Leinster Championship because we've never won it since 2000. Like none of this current panel has ever won it, so we'd love to keep going until we win it, and then when we win it, you can get rid of it then. But no, I think it would make sense to move the championship to a more like the league format. We want it mean way more games, more competitive games, and ultimately that's what we want for a championship format. So I think if it came to it that a provincial championship had to be sacrificed or maybe played as a pre-season type event, I think it's probably what makes the most sense. All right.
Yeah, well, hopefully we do see some sort of football, whether it be October or even earlier than that, maybe with the club. But Kevin, thanks very much for coming on.
No hassle at all there.
And keep an eye on the channel. I have more videos coming soon.